Welcome to the latter half of Week 9, Economy and Society of the Republic of Ireland. Please feel free to ask me any questions. I know there's a lot of information here. So after much grief and to-do, 26 counties were officially partitioned, and thus the Republic of Ireland was born in 1922. A little more than a decade later, they drafted their very own constitution and the Republic of Ireland Act. Just in case Great Britain had any new plans for those old ideas and to further brand themselves. Really, it was great PR. Or at least good enough for us Americans to use once upon a time. Over the next century, the Republic of Ireland was finally able to play in the big kid sandbox, starting in 1955, when they joined not just the United Nations, but the World Trade Organization. Just a decade later, they signed the Anglo-Irish Free Trade Agreement with the UK, and within the next decade, they officially hooked up with the European Union. But that's old news. The Republic of Ireland has recently made headlines during the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, or OSCE, in 2012. Oh, and did I mention that they held the rotated EU presidency for the 7th time in history during the spring 2013 period? Don't you know? Well, get this. They were also elected to the UN Human Rights Council for the first time for the 2013-15 season. Go RoI. So this awesome nation has a population between 4.589 and 4.776 million people, depending on who you read. No, I'm not even kidding. When I looked at the World Bank, it told me one thing, but then stepped in with their fancy world factbook. But hey, what's misplacing a couple 100,000 people in a billion-body world, right? Regardless, the Republic of Ireland is now the 119th largest country by population in the known world. If you're going to account for anyone, you likely will do so in one of 3 cities, including Leinster, Munster, and the capital, Dublin. Don't worry though, if you pay a visit, everyone speaks English. While Gaelic looks wicked cool, it's mostly only used in legal matters nowadays, though there are a few places along the western coast that not only teach it in schools, but do try to keep it in mind. Or, well, whatever. What you might not notice, though, is the fact that Ireland has the highest percentage of population increase, fertility rate, proportion of youth, 14 and under, as well as the lowest divorce rate and proportion of elderly in all of the EU. Real overachievement. Don't let that language thing fool you, though. Like most countries, their people have a lot of pride. In fact, until the Republic of Ireland experienced the sheer violence in the 1970s, iridescent ideals had them trying to conform their northern counterparts in a zealous, nationalistic style. You could even say they took the lesson a little too well, since the voting stats plummeted thereafter until after the recession hit and the 2011 elections began. Ireland is still somewhat nationalistic, since the vast majority of people in Ireland either identify as Irish or an Irish mix. This is not a surprise, as immigration is down. It has been, in fact, since its peak in 2006 and 2007, while emigration is up. In fact, according to one BBC report, an estimated 300,000 people, 41%, which were between the ages of 15 and 24, left Ireland over the course of the previous 4 years. It's a net outflow triple that which was recorded a decade ago. Even worse, since 2007, the number of male immigrants exceeded the number of females, leaving a once evenly gender-divided country with a ratio of 47 males to 100 females. Ireland relaxed some of their citizenship policies, the numbers would be a little better. But maybe going back to that nationalistic thing, there are only two ways anyone can gain citizenship in Ireland, and that is either through birth or descendancy, or through naturalization. And by birth, they really mean birth by descendancy. Babies born on Irish soil are not guaranteed citizenship unless their parent or grandparent is an Irish citizen themselves. In fact, a major factor in naturalization cases is marriage or recognized civil partnership to an Irish citizen, and even that now is not a promised benefit. It's as if the government conspires against anyone without blood ties to the land. But that's not the only uncompromising thing in the country. Much like America has roots in deep Christian faith, Ireland is still tethered to the Roman Catholic tradition. That's not to say that the government itself is swayed by the church. While historically the church has used tactics like emancipation to further political agendas, like repealing the Act of Union, ingrain itself into the educational system in order to enforce and preserve its ideals, and make church-related vocations prior to the 70s appealing, the Constitution does allow for religious freedom, even in schools. That having been said, most schools are confessional, so religion is part of the curriculum and their boards are governed in part by people of distinct religious affiliation. Those schools do have a right to deny a student entrance or a staff member a job based on those religious backgrounds. Still, the government itself funds and permits instructions to all institutions equally. One of the most fascinating things I came across while researching the Republic of Ireland and religion was the 2009 adoption of a blasphemy law, which puts up to a 25,000 euro fine on someone convicted of publishing or uttering blasphemous material. Specifically, the law reads, a person publishes or utters blasphemous matter if A, he or she publishes or utters matter that is grossly abusive or insulting in relation to matters held sacred by any religion, thereby causing outrage among a substantial number of adherents to that religion, and B, he or she intends by the publication or utterance of the matter concerned to cause such outrage. Now, people, of course, were up in arms about this law, not just because of the vagueness of it, as one man from the atheist group did ask, what constitutes an outrage, but because of the implied infringement it poses on human rights, like the freedom of expression, which is also guaranteed to all Irish citizens. The policy, however, was defended by the Irish government as necessary to upholding the Constitution, because the Constitution does contain lines which states that any blasphemous statement is in fact punishable by law. No one, however, has been convicted on the law in several years because it's so ambiguous. Certain issues with the church have undermined its integrity in Ireland, and as such, the church has lost a lot of its historical pull for the followers of the faith. Those issues most notably include an aging leadership seemingly too far removed from the people, especially the youth, the disinclination of younger staff to continue religious work and taking over positions of that leadership, child abuse scandals and poor handling of those scandals, and protestation of Catholic beliefs, or better referred to as social changes inconsistent with traditional teachings like equality in gender roles, having intimate relations outside marriage, especially if it results in a child, and divorce. Since 2000, only 46% of documented Roman Catholics in Ireland attend weekly Mass, and only a fourth are under the age of 35. The lack of ethnic and religious diversity, however, is often overshadowed by the problem of gender inequality in the country, which hurts the economy in the end. As of now, the job market is biased, with less than one-tenth of Irish females working in a skilled trade, and less than one-sixth of their male counterparts finding a job in the caring, leisure, and other service markets. While the gender gap in the labor force has evened out over the years, so nearly as many women are working as men, and despite the larger number of women in comparison to men in the country, females still find themselves highly disadvantaged. adopting a community framework strategy on gender equality policy, aimed at creating equal participation and representation of the genders in positions of decision-making. It was a truly wonderful thought, but 11 years later, women still only made up a fraction of the positions that males did. But in the Republic of Ireland's defense, this issue pales in comparison to the economy as a whole. From 1995 to 2007, the Republic of Ireland's economy, like most other first world countries, was looking pretty spiffy. Their GDP was growing at a steady 6% each year. Their property prices were so high they managed to be the most expensive in any developed country. And they successfully and beneficially converted to the Euro system along with 11 other nations in 2002. But we all know all good things come to an end. It began in 2008 when their GDP fell by 3%. Prices were substantially spiked, causing the entire country to be the second most expensive in the EU. It was also the beginning of the first recession in over a decade for the nation. Then, in 2009, the GDP fell again. This time, though, it was a nearly 7% drop. It collapsed the domestic property and construction markets. Property prices fell 47%, and it forced the economy to be trade dependent. Come 2010, the deficit reached a staggering 31.2% of the GDP, the highest of all the EU. And finally, in 2011, the government debt reached 108.2% of the GDP, the third highest debt-GDP ratio in the EU. During these 4 years, Cohen took power. His administration attempted to salvage the economy by guaranteeing all bank deposits, recapitalizing the banking system, and establishing public venture capital funds. He formed the National Asset Management Agency, NAMA, in 2009 to take over the loans from banks in return for bonds in order to maintain Irish credit and pay them off. He also introduced a series of draconian, that is very severe, budgets, which included lots of spending cuts like reducing the wages of public servants. Most notably, however, the Cohen government accepted a $112 billion loan package from the EU and the International Monetary Fund. This was done in 2010 in order for Dublin to increase its banking sector's capitalization efforts and to avoid defaulting on its sovereign debt. Despite all their efforts, however, they were voted out of office in 2011 and replaced by the Kenny government, which saw an improved economy, growing 1.4%, and a deficit which fell initially to 9.1%. Even though the slack in export demands hurt their sales in 2012, Dublin's efforts alone managed to continue to slash the deficit until it was only 8.5% of the GDP. In 2012, a referendum was held to ratify the Treaty on Stability, Coordination and Governance in the Economic and Monetary Union, also known as the Fiscal Stability Treaty or the Fiscal Compact. The Irish goal in this was to reach 3% of the GDP by the end of 2015. At last notice, they were on track. Just like a machine needs good gears, the Republic of Ireland depends on its people to produce the goods for export and help pay back the debt the country owes. Yet unemployment in 2012 was at a detrimental 55.1% for those who were aged between 15 and 65 years old, a number falling slightly from the rate in the previous year when Ireland had the fifth highest percentage of unemployed in the EU. Despite that negative statistic, the GDP per person employed was nearly 40% higher than the EU average, managing to place Ireland as the fifth most expensive state in the EU at the time. And even though Ireland had the lowest inflation in the EU between 2007 and 11, 6.2% of the population still falls below the poverty line as of 2000. much more inspiring. The federal budget, for example, is still in balance, with the government expenditures exceeding the revenue by a little more than $15.7 billion, even though the country's debt is already over $2.16 trillion. The World Bank, however, has kept the nation's GDP at $210.3 billion, or the $195.4 billion GDP purchasing power parity.